You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
You know, I've never been one for those bizarre crossovers they do. You know, G.I. Joe's crossing over with Transformers. Ghostbusters is transforming over with, I don't know, Supernatural. You know, Scooby-Doo and Batman. It just always seems weird when you cross these universes, because you really have to step out of belief, and in doing so kind of makes, but I saw a trailer this morning, and I don't know who this is for. And there may be a lot of people out there that suddenly go, oh my God, but Godzilla versus Kong versus the Justice League. And that just seems really, I don't know. When I first looked at it, I thought, should Superman be able to kill Godzilla pretty easily? You know, I mean, shouldn't he be able to fly in Godzilla's mouth up into his brain and just kind of bounce around inside the skull until all the brain is goo and he just collapses? Or drive straight through his chest? Or Green Lantern, couldn't he just power ring into Godzilla's mouth and, basically kept blowing the thing up until King Kong can't breathe because its entire lungs are full of force energy? It just seems like the Justice League is on a different level, as, mind you, kaijus are big, but they are just brute force most of the time. So it just seems to me like if the Justice League were killers, they'd be able to take care of it like that. But if the Justice League is going to play nice, I don't know. Like I said, I don't get that one. Is there a demand for that? People want to see Batman in a giant tech suit fighting Godzilla? Is that what people want? Stay tuned for the Dan Wickline Show. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. I hope you're all doing well. I am back. I was not feeling well yesterday. I'm not feeling 100% today, but well enough to do the show. Did I point those out to you the other day? Since we've been talking about Warhammer and stuff, did I point these out, the new index cards they have coming out? These index cards are, each army gets their index cards, and you can take these with you to your tournaments, to your games, and they have all the information on there. That's the front. These are nice sturdy cards. This back here has all the enhancement information you'd need for the Grey Knights, the different stratagems, and all the information for that, the army rules. And then each character gets their own card, or each division type of thing. This is Khaldor Drago, and all his information's on the front and the back, all the different things he can do. It goes down to the different troops that are in there, You know, if you have a Dread Knight, if you have a Strike Force, all that information's there. And it's really nice because, as you can see, there's quite a few cards in there. But if I'm doing my army, it's probably not going to have all those guys in there. I'm probably going to have maybe 4 or 5. So I take the information cards and the 4 or 5 units I'm using, and I just put them on the table in front of me. And I don't have to flip through a big book or look on my phone for the information. They're all there. They're nice, and they're a nice thick cardstock too. So Mark says, "Happy Wednesday from poolside." Well, good for you, Mark. Ed says, "Hope you feel better." Oh, thank you, Ed. Glad you're here. Hello, Mark. Hello, Cool. Kenneth, good to see you. If you're going to channel Andy Rooney, you should really do the voice. God, I used to be able to do Andy Rooney's voice. Let me think about that. Have you ever noticed that when people put out comics nowadays, they just don't really seem to care. They don't care exactly what's going on. They just want to see if they can make some money. It used to be you made a comic, you wanted to make the comic because it tell a good story, but no. Now you just make it in hopes that someone's going to buy it. You put 27 covers on it, and you market it like crazy. You put it out there, and then you forget about it because no one's going to talk good about it. So you ignore the reviews and just move on. Well, that's not the way I used to do comics. JD, how's that? I think while you're out, they ripped Grimm fairy tales. Netta says Galactus can't be considered. Oh, as a celestial? We're going to talk about that. I've got a whole write-up for it, and you might be surprised. I know the general answer is Galactus a celestial is no, but we're going to get to that, and that might be changing. But let's go ahead and we'll hit some news. And remember, I just report the news. I don't make it happen. So you have to do this as a series of short YouTube Andy Rooney reacts to culture. I could do that. I just need to listen to Andy Rooney a little more and get his voice back. All right, let's start with the really odd news. Marvel is currently selling ASM based on shock value. It's downgrade. True. The whole Spider-Boy thing, too. I'm like, geez. So the little bit shocking news was Kevin Spacey has been found not guilty in his sexual crimes trial in London. The House of Cards and American Beauty star was facing 9 charges at the Starwark Crown Court, including sexual assault, which were alleged to have been committed between 2001 and 2013 and relate to 4 different men. Of course, speaking outside the courthouse, Spacey said, who, oddly enough, turned 64 today, so it's his birthday, said he's humbled by the jury's decision. Juries rejected the prosecution's claim that Spacey had aggressively grabbed 3 men by the crotch and had performed a sex act on another man while he was asleep in his flat. See, now, those kind of things sound like they either did or didn't happen. It doesn't seem like the type of thing that they need a jury to decide. But following the not guilty verdict, the UK's Crown Prosecution Service, also called the CPS, said prosecutors respected the decision of the court. A spokesman said following a thorough investigation by the Metropolitan Police, the CPS made the decision to charge Kevin Spacey with sexual offenses. The function of the CPS is not to decide whether a person is guilty of a crime offense, but to make fair, independent, and objective assessments about whether it's appropriate to present charges. So that is 2 different trials that Kevin Spacey has been found not guilty. Now, what this means going forward I know he popped up in a movie recently that showed up at one of the film festivals. But our society nowadays doesn't really seem to be the forgive and forget type. Whether you're innocent or guilty, they tend to think you're guilty, especially on something like this, and they don't let it go. So, will Spacey be able to come back? I don't know. Seems like a long shot. Unless you're a priest or a youth pastor, then they just move you to another area. With doing movies, you're in every area. All right, moving on, just a heads up for everybody who's watching Secret Invasion. This is not spoiler, but Marvel has concluded Secret Invasion and didn't use any post-credit scenes. So don't expect to have to stick around until, for any post-credit scenes. There's none in any of the episodes. None at all. Netta says, guilty until proven innocent. Well, I think actually nowadays it's guilty until, just guilty. Yeah. Eddie says, that makes me happy. I love Kevin's work. His movie K-Pax is one of my favorite movies. Innocent in the eyes of the law. I can think whatever I want. Yeah, that seems to be the way they do things now, is that people just kind of assume innocent or guilt based on the knowledge that they were given or the reports, and regardless of how it's found. It is innocent until proven guilty, and if you're not proven guilty or you're found not guilty, then you are innocent. It's how it's supposed to work. But all right, let's move on to better news. With the upcoming Daredevil Born Again making its way to us next year, there's been kind of an outcry, the fact that Eldon Henson and Deborah Ann Woll were not being brought back as Foggy Nelson and Karen Page, respectively. Now, one fan even took to Twitter and started trashing the project, saying, no Karen, no Foggy, no thanks. Well, D'Onofrio, the guy who's playing Wilson Fisk, came on and said, because they are bringing back Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox, he just simply replied, patience, patience. Now, it's hard to say exactly what he means. I mean, he could be saying that the actors will return later, because it is 2 seasons and 18 episodes a season. So we may not even get to them in that. I mean, that's, there's still lots to come. Or it could mean that those roles will be recast later. Now, part of the rumor we've heard about Born Again is that part of it will take place during the blip. And if Karen and Foggy were snapped away, then they wouldn't be in that part. If that's what we start with, then it wouldn't be, why would you bring in those actors at this point? So I think we need to wait and see and get official announcements and stuff. So I wouldn't get upset about them not being in it yet. There's always still a possibility, but you never know. JD says, I have no opinion on the subject. It doesn't concern me. I see both sides. Thank you, Netta. Netta says that's a great theory. So, all right. And then we've got some information. Well, Mark Guggenheim, who you guys may know as one of the co-founders and creators of the Arrowverse, who's a big part of Arrow. Well, he was asked, being that he's worked a cohesive universe like that, what's going on with Marvel and what he would do. And he gave a very long, detailed answer, more longer than I had expected. He said, I'm going to read this, and it's a little long. If I was suddenly in Kevin Feige's role, basically I would do what Iger was saying, which is prune the tree. There's just too much content. I'm like the biggest Marvel nerd ever, and I've not seen Moon Knight. I just can't keep up. There's just too much content. And then, of course, like Iger was saying, there's a question of how much content can you produce at quality. To me, the difference between phase 4 and phase 1 through 3 is fundamentally something very simple, which is you could even be watching Infinity War without having seen the prior number of movies. Like you mentioned, Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier was its own movie with a beginning, middle, and an end. And yet that movie set the foundation for things that, it didn't deal with Infinity Stones, but it did deal with Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. and Steve Rogers' relationship with the government and the Winter Soldier. There were a lot of pieces. And the same thing with Black Panther. Black Panther works great as a movie, beginning, middle, and end, even though it's setting up the whole world of Wakanda that figures very largely into Infinity War. Compare that with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, where in order to understand the villain of the movie, you had to watch not another movie, another TV show, a TV show that you had to spend money to subscribe to the service that aired it. That's the problem. Each of these movies in phase 1 through 3, they all stood on their own. Look, I get it. I think honestly what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going through right now is the same discovery that Marvel Print Universe and the DC Print Universe all went through, which is, I think of these universes like ships. And the longer a ship sails, the more barnacles get attached to its hull. And the more that weighs down the ship, and the more it affects how fast the ship can move through the water. And every now and again, you need to do some sort of reboot and scrape off the barnacles, like Crisis on Infinite Earths. So yeah, I thought that was kind of an interesting take on that. Yeah, too much content. They are kind of flooding things. So but they are talking about scaling back. So maybe scaling back will help. Meta says too many content. They need to slow down. I wish we also get Spider-Man animated series like the Invincible Spider-Man did. Great. Wish there is a animated Spider-Man series in the works. It's supposed to take place with him in high school. So prior to the Tom Holland movies, it'll be set with him in high school in the early days of him as Spider-Man, before he met Tony Stark. That's supposed to be in the works. I think it's called Spider-Man Freshman Year, but with COVID and everything, a lot is slowed down. So, all right, one more news story. This is a financial one, and this has to do with how much Disney and Star Wars is spending on their projects. According to a new report from Forbes, Disney has spent more on The Acolyte in pre-production than it did for the theatrical released Rogue One, a Star Wars story. The Star Wars Disney Plus series reportedly cost $49.2 million in just pre-production, which is $5.5 million more than Rogue One's pre-production budget of $43.7 million. Compared to other Star Wars films, the studio only spent 17% more on the pre-production cost of The Last Jedi, which was deemed a surefire hit by Disney, coming off the mega success of The Force Awakens. The upcoming Skeleton Crew currently holds the record for the most expensive Star Wars streaming series, with a reported budget of $136 million. Another series in Andor had a pre-production budget that was quite a bit higher, 38%, than The Acolytes. However, much of that can likely be attributed to the fact that it was all done in COVID. So there's a lot more restrictions and stuff it had to do during the pandemic and all the precautions that came with it. Now, we don't know what the budget of The Acolyte is going to actually be, but it sounds like it's going to be massive. So, and I think The Acolyte's really important to the brand because it delves into an area that's never been shown in live action, and it ties in to all of this stuff they're doing with the High Republic. So if this one hits and does well, it could launch a whole new area for Star Wars to play with, and also increase sales on the novels and the comics and stuff that are coming out. So we'll see. I think they got high hopes for The Acolyte. So, all right, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to talk Galactus. Be right back. Maybe. I think JD ran away. JD?
Did you know that every experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out. Twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code.
To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, a promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds, a promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey, and behind every page there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com today.
You know how when you go to Comic-Con, after Comic-Con, you go to the hotel bar, and there's a whole bunch of people playing music and dancing, and you've got Pikachu and Lara Croft Tomb Raider doing the cha-cha slide just down from Deadpool and Batman and Wonder Woman? That's every Saturday night over on the Experience Twitch channel. Join Taji Beats for the EXP Dance Party, exclusively on Twitch, twitch.tv/the_EXP.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Just so you guys know, that was a connectivity error, not JD sleeping on the job. Let's not want anybody to think JD wasn't doing his stuff. So please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Remember to stick around. We've got a great lineup today. We've got comic collectibles. We've got talk and treat trivia, and we got kicking it with Henri tonight. So you want to stick around for all of that. Also, I mentioned this last week when we talked about Red Sonja, but I want to bring it up again because we're down to the last 20 hours of, and I say we, I do some stuff with Dynamite, so I do consider myself kind of part of. And Dynamite is doing their Humble Bundle for Red Sonja's, the 50th anniversary. But part of the proceeds are going to the Hero Initiative. And I am a big proponent of the Hero Initiative. I once got put a book together using all of the artist friends I had called Unusual Suspects. And Top Cow published it, and all the proceeds from that went to the Hero Initiative. So I'm a big supporter of the Hero Initiative. And currently, with 20 hours left to go, the bundle has raised over $11,000 for the Hero Initiative. I am hoping that we're going to be able to get to 12 or higher in the next 20 hours. So if you are a Red Sonja fan and are looking to pick up like 250 digital comics for like 98% of the cover price, I think for $18 you get all those comics, and part of it goes to the Hero Initiative. So check it out if you get a chance. There's 20 hours left. And again, it's got great stuff from Gail Simone, Nancy Collins, Jim Zub, Frank Thierry, a bunch of Roy Thomas, some of the older Red Sonja stuff from the Marvel days, and current stuff. It's got Dan Abnett's great Red Sonja versus Superpowers. It's got Red Sonja Vampirella. It's got Red Sonja Chaos, if you're a Chaos Comics fan. So if JD can put the link in chat, I have it here. I'll just pass it to you. And that would be appreciated if you guys can check it out. And if you can back it, even more so. So, all right. Let me see if I missed anybody's comments. Netta says, oh, hey, Triple B, good to see you. Netta says, I did the dig down on the studio making Spider-Man. They mostly made the 3D animation or CGI. First of Blue Sky and Blame notable work, which didn't get great reception. Okay. Ed says the Ultimate Spider-Man animated series 1 was excellent. He's in high school and S.H.I.E.L.D. trains him to be the Ultimate Spider-Man. Tony gave him Tech and Power Man, White Tiger, Iron Fist, and Nova. Yeah, I've seen parts of those. Those are pretty good. It's fun animation series. If you haven't seen it, yeah, it's on Disney Plus. So I've caught a few of those on there. Let's see. Netta says, watched it but didn't keep me stick to it. Too much kid friendly. I wish we may get Spider-Man series that do justice to the comic, like the Invincible is doing. Spectacular Spider-Man did. Yeah, Invincible is really good, and we're getting the second season coming soon. Plus, there's going to be that Adam Eve special in between. So, hey, Lyle, how you doing? All right, let's get into Galactus. Now, I came up with this topic. Well, I'll explain why I came up to the topic in the middle of this, but Galactus came into mind, and when I did a little research, it made me ask this question. And it's a question that's been asked a lot. You know, is Galactus a Celestial? I mean, I think everyone agrees that eventually we're going to get Galactus in the MCU, and it won't be a big, hard to see cloud like they did in the Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer. We're going to get a real one. He's just too big, no pun intended, of a character to be not used eventually. But with the Eternals movies, Jack Kirby's other giant cosmic characters were introduced as Celestials. And I know there are a lot of people out there asking, is Galactus a Celestial? And like I said, if you had asked me this question 2 years ago, like when the Eternals came out, I would have said, absolutely not, without any hesitation. But that was that. Now, before we talk about that, let's break down why I would have been so sure that he wasn't a Celestial. Now, Galactus, or his previous name of Galan, was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in the pages of Fantastic Four number 45 back in 1966. And the idea was they wanted to get away from the typical supervillain. This was to be like a godlike being that drained living planets of their energy, ignoring the life forms caught in its wake. Now, he was originally born, like I said, Galan on the planet of Ta, where he was a space explorer, and this existed in the universe prior to the Big Bang that made our universe. So he's from a previous universe. And when his universe came to an end, he merged with something known as the sentience of the universe. And together they became Galactus. And coming out of it, he ended up wielding the cosmic, so much cosmic power that it required him to devour planets to sustain his existence. Netta says after Kang, Galactus should be next. He probably should be. Now, the Celestials were created by Kirby in Eternals number 2, 10 years later, after he had left Marvel and then came back. And while the exact origin isn't known, what is said, and I'm going to be reading some of this from the actual text, is that at the beginning of creation itself, countless billions of years ago, before the current cosmic order, a creation was composed of a single sentient universe, whose omnipotent intelligence was referred to as the first firmament, For countless ages, the first firmament was the sole being in creation until its loneliness became unbearable. It decided to create the first life in creation to give it companions as well as servants, and acts that it would come to regret. You see, the servants, cosmic beings of a lesser order of power, were done in two kinds. There were black and multicolored humanoid servants. The black servants dutifully obeyed and worshiped their creator. They even created their own servants, sought to preserve the simple order of their creator, and made complete and unchanging for all time. They were very happy with it. The first firmament named these loyal beings aspirants and was very pleased by their goals and desires to maintain the status quo of its reign. However, the multicolored ones had completely different values and desires from the aspirants. Considered rebels by the first firmament, they wanted a dynamic, diverse, and continually evolving reality where beings lived, learned, reproduced, aged, and died to slowly improve themselves through evolution. The rebels wanted this with the ultimate long-term goal of producing superior cosmic beings whose power to create universes of their own, and for the universes to evolve with them as they advanced towards that state. These were the beings whom one day would be called the Celestials. Now, just by those definitions, the first firmament and the sentience of the universe seem kind of similar, don't you think? Isn't it ironic there at the end there? Now, in comics, the Celestials are all about watching and judging. They're like your father. They pick a planet and they see where they're at. And then they go away and then they come back to see how the civilization has progressed. Then they go away again. And when they come back the second time, if they have not progressed far enough, they are then destroyed, just wiped out. Like I said, just like your father. Now, it's all about progress as a race. And if there isn't enough, then they'll just start over, wipe out and start over. But they'll also put creatures on the planets. In Earth's case, they put deviants first. And when the deviants didn't work out, they put the humans. And the idea was that they would help humanity along in the progression. Well, this is very different from Galactus. So while you can question where they both start, what they did moving forward in comics were very different. You know, the Celestials judged planets, and some were deemed fine and some were destroyed. Galactus was all about draining living planet energy. And when you say a living planet, you know, it's a planet that can sustain life of some kind. It doesn't necessarily mean life forms, or it shouldn't have. But see, that's where I started questioning. This is where this topic comes from. Why, if Galactus is eating the energy from the planet, did he come to Earth? Jupiter is the largest planet in our galaxy. Venus has life, it can sustain plant life. Different planets have those abilities. Why didn't it eat them? Why does he only go to inhabited planets? And for the longest time, they never really had a good answer for that. You know? But it turns out Galactus isn't really devouring worlds. Now, in Fantastic Four Life Story number 5, Galactus is a looming threat from the beginning of the Fantastic Four's career. And the super genius Reed Richards spends most of his life attempting to stop Galactus. When he finally arrives, the team is eventually paid a visit by the Silver Surfer. And the Surfer admits that the only way he was able to save his own world was by becoming Galactus' herald, dooming millions of others just to save Zen-La. Now we know that story. But something he says is important. In that issue, he says, of all the forces in the universe, I think I need a different voice for the Silver Surfer because he's much more this way. Of all the forces in the universe, there are none more concentrated than the power of consciousness. Nothing beckons destruction more than the awareness that you are being destroyed. This is what fuels the power cosmic, explains the Silver Surfer. The force used by Galactus and the Surfer, the power cosmic, is an incredibly powerful force in the Marvel Universe, and now we know where that power comes from. It's from conscious thoughts. Basically, Galactus shows up, stands over the planet that he's about to destroy, scaring the hell out of everybody on it, and that fear increases the power of the consciousness, and that is what he's eating. That is what he's feeding on. So this basically tragically means Galactus can't simply consume a world with vegetation or single-celled organisms. He has to replenish his energy with thinking, sapient beings. Okay? And now that makes sense with everything we've seen about Galactus over the years. It's about the consciousness of the people on the planet. So he's not draining the energy of the planet, he's draining the energy of the consciousness. So this information came out, this issue came out in 2021, which is around the exact same time as the Eternals movie. The movie also gave us an idea of how new Celestials came about. And what they would do is they would find an appropriate planet and plant the seed of a Celestial, or whatever you want to call it, inside the crust or the center of the planet. And then as the population grew, it became more powerful. Basically, it wasn't the fact that there was people, it was the consciousnesses. What jumpstarts the awakening of a Celestial is a certain number of consciousness or the energy from those consciousnesses. So, in a way, they're getting their energy the same place that Galactus does. So, again, all those years we're like, no, they're very different. He eats planets and they just judge people. But what they're doing in the MCU and what they did in this comic from 2021 brings them much closer together, which makes a lot of sense because in the MCU you're introducing the Celestials, and then a couple years later you're introducing Galactus. Most people are going to go, well, is he a Celestial? Because in the comics, the number of issues that took place in the 10 years between Fantastic Four 49 and Eternals #2, that's a lot of stuff. And while we've gotten a lot of different shows and stuff, there isn't really that many. People are still wondering about Tiamat hanging half out of the earth. So I think that Marvel may be moving to bring them closer together. And this may seem like a subtle shift in the characters, but the fact that both Galactus and the Celestials feed the same way off of consciousness of populations and that these changes took place about the same time, though in different mediums. It wouldn't surprise me if Marvel is looking to make Galactus a rogue celestial, or maybe even an aspirant, one of the other races that they've never talked about. Either way, it does seem like these kind of changes are the type of thing Marvel Studios likes to do to bring everything in line. So, yeah, like I said, 2 years ago, I would have said there's no way Galactus is a celestial. They're completely different beings. They don't look the same. They kind of do. The only difference is that when Jack Kirby drew Galactus, he gave him an open face mask, or open mouth, and shorts. And he got rid of the shorts. If Galactus's mask was completely solid, he really would look the same as a celestial. So I could see them going that route. Netta says, yeah, I love the idea of a rogue celestial. Yeah, I think that's a possibility there, because they really have brought their source of their powers so in line. So, all right, so that was my thoughts on Galactus. Like I said, I was questioning why he didn't eat just other planets. And that led me to that information from Fantastic Four Life Story number 5, which I think totally changes everything. So, like I said, I'm not guaranteeing it's going to happen, but it does seem possible that Marvel is moving Galactus towards a celestial, and that they are going to do more with celestials in the future. So, all right, let's go ahead and we'll take our second break. And when we come back, we've got some key Galactus issues to talk about. Be right back.
Why was Princess Zelda sad after watching a bunch of YouTube videos? She couldn't find the link in the description. We'll stop if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's super easy. Click subscribe and click the bell when you do. And thanks for supporting the EXP.
Comic Collectibles is a pretty straightforward show. You got Rex here, he sells the comics, and you got Rockin' Robbie, he knows about the comics. And finally, John, well, no one really knows what John does. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great guy, but he just keeps showing up. Come to think of it, I don't even really know how he gets in here. Anyway, awesome comics, rare books, rarer signatures, slabbed books, and amazing cover sketches by Ken Hazer and others. Simple formula, you want the comics, you buy the comics. To sum up, Rex sells the comics, Robbie knows the comics, and John, who might possibly be a ghost. I mean, seriously, has anyone ever seen him show up or leave? Comic Collectibles with Rex and John, Mondays from 6 to 8 Eastern on The Experience. Comic Culture and Sales.
What if Hans Gruber from Die Hard had to battle the Joker from Batman the Animated Series in a dance battle? Or who would win in a race between Baby from Baby Driver and Snidely Whiplash? If Austin Powers and Shrek found themselves in a hot dog eating contest, who would emerge victorious? These are the questions we talk about on Nerd Killer Warfare. Debate the most absurd questions you've ever heard in popular culture. Register now by scanning the QR code or visiting bit.ly/EXP casting. Go follow The Experience on TikTok at @the_EXP1 or scan the QR code on the screen. Our TikTok is like everywhere else we are, except you only have to deal with us for a minute. Seems like a win-win to me.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Nita asks how Fox effed up with the making Galactus into a space cloud. You know, I think Fox had a big problem. One of the problems is they looked at the idea of a giant guy that's bigger than the planet just staying outside of orbit and thought it would look too silly. And kind of does. But Marvel did a pretty good job of it with Celestials, so it can be done. The other problem Marvel had, or Fox had, is they honestly believed that you couldn't have the Fantastic Four without Doctor Doom. So they squeezed Doctor Doom into everything, and he's not necessary. You should establish the Fantastic Four first, then bring in Doom. You don't need to. He needs to have his own time to shine. So you got to make FF first. Make him the second or third villain. Don't write. It's like the Joker. Don't try to shoehorn Joker into every Batman project. You know, he takes up too much oxygen. He takes up too much space. Give Batman a chance. Give Fantastic Four a chance to become who they are. Then worry about the Joker or Lex Luthor or Doctor Doom or, you know. That's the thing is with big villains. All right, let's get into our Galactus issues. On reveal, make your opponents whine on Reddit. Nice, JD. All right, we start off with, of course, now this is the first full appearance of Galactus. He cameoed in number 48, but this is Fantastic Four number 49. This goes for over $5,000 on the high end, about $1,700 in the middle, $550 on the low end. Then we have, see, everybody thinks Galactus is this big Fantastic Four villain, but he spent a huge amount of time in Thor. And in Thor 160, we actually had Galactus hunting down Ego the Living Planet. This goes for $160 on the high end, $55 in the median, $15 on the low end. Then in Thor 161, it's the first time we got part of his origin story. This goes for a high of $125, median of $35, low of $12. And in 162, we actually see him eating his first world. And this goes for a high end of $60, median of $18, low end of $5. In Thor 169, we actually get more of his origin. This is the story of when he was Galen of Ta. So, you know, Thor 169 goes for a high of 250, median of 80, low end of 25. So he's as much a Thor villain as he is a Fantastic Four villain in a lot of ways. And then back over to the Fantastic Four, number 175. I thought this one was appropriate, being that this was his clash with the High Evolutionary. And the size of Galactus always seems to change. He doesn't seem that big here. Other times he seems bigger than the planet. So high end on this is only $10, median is $2, low end is $1. In Epic Illustrated, they ran some some Galactus stories. But in Epic Illustrated number 26 in 1984, they featured the first chapter of what was to be known as the last Galactus story that was written and drawn by John Byrne, but it was unfinished. The originally, like I said, it was supposed to the 9-chapter arc that ended with the cancellation of the publication. So they got to a certain point and then it was done. So high end on this is 35, median is 9, low end is 3. I don't know if they ever got around to finishing the story. This was a neat one-off, or not one-off, it's a 2-part miniseries, but it's an alternate universe or whatever you want to call it. This was called Silver Surfer Parable number 1 from 1988. And this was a 2-part limited series written by Stan Lee and illustrated by Mobius. High end on this goes 15, median is 5, low end is $1. I remember getting this and loving it. It is a really good series. This is another one outside of continuity. Darkseid versus Galactus, The Hunger from 1995. And if you look, you'll see that John Byrne drew him with shorts on again. One-shot crossover that has Galactus he's searching for worlds to devour, and he comes across Apocalypse. And of course, this is Jack Kirby love affair right here, because both villains created by Jack Kirby, all the characters. High end on this is $10, median is $2, low end is $1, and it's written and drawn by John Byrne. Looks more like Roman armor. Yeah, I can see that. And then back to Thor. Thor God of Thunder number 24 from 2014. This is when Galactus became Black Galactus, the Butcher of Worlds, which really seems redundant as the Devourer of Worlds, after merging with the Necro Sword. So this was part of that whole thing with the Necro Swords and stuff, Jason Aaron's run. High end on this is only $4. Median is $2. Low end is $1. So those are some of our Galactus. There's other Galactus issues out there. These were the ones I thought were the most interesting. There was something I was going to bring up. Oh, yes, I remember now. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about Secret Invasion. The finale is on streaming now. I've already seen it. There's some big spoilers. There is some stuff that will change the MCU. I won't say what those things are, but we are going to talk about them tomorrow. So if you're going to tune into the show tomorrow, you'll want to watch that before tomorrow's show. Your other option, of course, would be to watch it when you can, and then this will be on YouTube. You can watch the replay of it. But we are definitely going to be doing spoilers tomorrow, because there's things that we can't get around talking about. JD and I were talking about this just prior to air, and he said that someone had said to him that the MCU is like sitcoms, where they always return things to where they were at the end, or to me a better analogy is like the X-Files. Is no matter how outlandish the finale was, it was always back to Mulder was the believer and Scully was skeptical by the beginning. The Disney Plus shows. Okay. So, and there has been a lot of that, but little certain things tend to be left out there, threads to play with. Well, this one, there's some definite interesting things that are done. Now, part of it is, will the MCU play with this stuff that they leave? You know, there's still some threads out there they've never gotten back to. So that is questionable. But there are some definite threads left out there. Yeah. I want to say more, but I can't without spoiling. So I will stop there. But please, if you're going to tune in tomorrow and you don't want spoilers, try to watch the show beforehand or catch this show later on YouTube. So, all right. Please, if you get a chance, check out that Humble Bundle. It would be great to see if we can get the money for Hero Initiative up to 12,000. If you're not familiar with the Hero Initiative, what they do is they're kind of a safety net for comic creators when they have problems, because there's no retirement plan for freelance writers and artists. There's no health insurance or anything like that. So when something goes wrong, like medical issues, or you get behind on bills, stuff like that, there isn't a lot of recourse. Well, the Hero Initiative helps them out. I've known people who have had cancer, and the Hero Initiative gave them money to help. The people who got just older creators who bring some of these characters to life that are making millions now, who can't pay their electric bill. The Hero Initiative steps up, and they do it quietly, or if somebody needs help, they will also reach out to studios and companies, publishers, trying to find them work. So the Hero Initiative is currently run by Jim McLaughlin, who is just a terrific guy. It's got a board of directors that includes like Jim Valentino and a bunch of others. It is a charity that is near and dear to my heart because of those creators from the past gave so much to me, so much fed to my imagination, so many stories, so many hours of entertainment, and also education. I learned so much reading comics, whether it was the actual, the information, or it opened my mind up to things that I would later research. Comics have given a lot to me, so I am always happy to try to give back. And the Hero Initiative is a great way to do that. So, plus you can get a ton of Red Sonja books. So, does Marvel have rights to Red Sonja? No. The Red Sonja rights belong to Red Sonja LLC. They're a company that, because it's really weird how it worked, but yeah, it's its own company. So Red Sonja LLC has a deal with Dynamite to produce Red Sonja books and the upcoming movie and stuff like that. So Red Sonja was created at Marvel technically, but because she was based on Robert E. Howard, loosely based on a Robert E. Howard character, that went to Howard, and I believe Howard gave Red Sonja with a J to his lawyer, whose son is now Red Sonja LLC. It's all very, but no, Marvel does not. So, all right, guys, we're going to wrap that up there. We got about an hour break, and then Comic Collectibles will kick off at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, then followed by Talk and Treat Trivia and kicking it with Henri tonight. Stick around for all of that. Check out the Red Sonja Humble Bundle and watch Secret Invasion, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody.
Do you remember what it was like when you were a little kid and you got a letter in the mail? Now imagine that letter was filled with information about your favorite shows, pop culture questions, links to things you're going to want to see later, and even sneak peeks at upcoming programming here on The Experience. That's what the EXP mailing list is. Every week, we send you sneak peeks, information, and all of the relevant links for all of the shows you want to see. Sign up now on our website or scan the QR code that's on your screen right now.